I'm going to share my slides. Today, my topic is about OKRs again, but as Inga just said, with a different angle today. I see that problem a lot in organizations that already working with agile methodologies like Scrum, and then they start with working with OKRs, and then don't know which one is for what and why and how do we combine them, which framework is doing which job, and so on. So I decided to tackle this topic a little bit more in detail, and that's the reason for today's talk. So before I start, I see the chat here in front of me. If you are able to write down in the chat, please tell me, have you heard of OKRs? Say yes or no in the chat. Yes, yes. A lot of yeses. That's good. Will I see a no? Then I reframe the question. Have you started working with OKRs already? Yes or no? No. No. Yeah. We have a lot of people maybe heard about OKRs. It's one of the topics currently in the last couple of years. But having started with OKRs is another topic, right? So I see no as answers. And from everyone who said yes, yes to both questions, do you like OKRs? Tell me in the chat, yes or no. How you feel about OKRs? You like them or not? I'm not sad if you say no. I would have empathy for that. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Any more questions? And I by the way, I'm following the Zoom chat only. If in Wova there are other comments in the chat, I'm not able to see that. All right. So for everyone who said no and no to both ends to questions, I want to give you a brief introduction to OKRs, very briefly, what they are all about and what's the goal of OKRs actually. So basically, in OKRs, we have two elements: the objective, which is the qualitative and directional goal statement. What do we want to achieve, create, and change for, what do we want to achieve at all, actually, in the next couple of months, let's say for 3 months. Then we write key results to that, 2 or 3 key results that measure the progress towards these objectives, right? And together they make a set as an OKR set, and they are not separable. So an objective and 2 to 3 key results under that objective is an OKR set we are talking about. Let me explain it a little bit more. Now, imagine I'm talking here to you, and of course, I have an objective. I want to achieve something with that, right? I'm not doing that just for fun. I do that. I have a lot of fun talking about OKRs, but I want to achieve something with my talk. That's my purpose of my talk. That I want you in the audience, that you reconsider the way you work with OKRs. That's my objective for this talk. And I will measure that if I'm achieving this objective, or if I achieve this objective, with a confirmation that I might ask at the end of the talk, if you changed your heart regarding OKRs, if you changed the way you think about OKRs, then maybe 10% of you even decide to contact me in LinkedIn. Please do so to show your confirmation. And 5% of you maybe even decide to give it a try, to try one of the workshops or trainings that I offer to understand my OKR approach a little bit more, even better. So this is my OKR set, right? And then I write initiatives to this OKR set. Today in my talk, one of my to-dos will be to explain the differentiation between output and an outcome. I will talk about the similarities and differences between OKR and Scrum. And when we connect them, what should be doing and not doing, the do's and don'ts. That's my initiative, that's my task, and not to mistaken with my key results, right? Why organizations actually decide to implement OKRs? 90% of the organizations implementing it say they do it in order to create focus and alignment. between the vision, strategy, and day-to-day work, because OKR is building this bridge between strategy and the work we do every day. And the third one is the hidden power of OKRs, in my eyes, that not everybody is talking about. Actually, OKRs are designed to learn, right? It enables us to learn and adapt because we measure the outcomes, and we can then build our hypotheses and say, okay, that worked well, that didn't, that validated, that not. And this way we can use OKRs as a learning framework, actually. Now, I will deep dive in a little bit more to that topic about outcomes. What is an outcome? And what's the differentiation between the terminology output and outcome? Now, OKRs are nothing new. When it started, its roots is going back to the 50s. Peter Drucker, he invented a management method called management by objectives. But back then, he only asked the question, what will we achieve? So it stayed with the objective, right? It didn't go any further in the concept. In the 70s, Intel, CEO of Intel, Andy Grove, it wasn't enough for him back then, and he extended it to key results. He started asking, what will I achieve and how will I achieve? And later he made his OKR approach public with his book, High Output Management. And this is how OKR got popular and popular in the beginning of 2000s. Now, from 70s to 2000 to 2023, a lot has changed. OKR is continuously evolving. And today what I'm showing to you is the latest evolved stage of OKRs today. And this we thank to Christina Wodke. She wrote a book, 2016, Radical Focus, and she reframed the question. Instead of asking, how will I achieve something? How will I achieve my objective? She started asking, how will I know that I'm achieving something, right? So this nuance of this question already changed the game when we talk about OKRs. A little bit more on that. You might have heard of Jeff Batten. If not, please visit his courses or website, or he wrote this great book, User Story Mapping. And I was in one of his courses, Passionate Product Leadership, and he drew this picture on the left side you see here to understand the difference between output and outcome, because none of us working in organizations, developing products or services, we are actually never interested in the output itself, but rather the impact of this output, what happens after that, the result after that. And that's what we call outcome. And we should be focusing rather on that instead of developing more and more outputs. We should be trying to maximize the outcome, actually. Now, I will give you an example from Spotify. I'm sure everyone heard of it and everyone is using it. So Spotify has this legendary feature. It's called Discovery Weekly. They launched it 2015. It was a great experiment. It started with an experiment and it became one of the most used features now of Spotify. Now, the thing they did with Discovery Weekly, the idea wasn't just to have another playlist. It was the outcome behind it was to increase the engagement of the users with Spotify, with playlists, right? So Discovery Weekly was just one of the ideas, one of the initiatives, one of the features they tried to implement in order to increase the user engagement. And the user engagement, this outcome, this change of behavior when they listen more, when they stay in Spotify more, when they use it more, this is the outcome they aimed for in order to create better business results. And it worked for them in that case, indeed, right? So it wasn't about the Discovery Weekly, after all. It was about how do we create more user engagement with our client, with how do we increase the session time and so on. And this resulted in these business results. You see more subscribers and more market share. So here we need to be careful about that. the output we are working on, a feature, the Discover Weekly, let's say, is not ensured that it's going to deliver value, right? So we need to be careful about this, not falling in love with our ideas in that case. What we need to be focusing on is allowing the teams to create a value, to deliver a value in order to change a wanted, required behavior of our users, of our customers. If we manage them with an impact, with like business results, market share, subscribers, these are just too abstract for one single team, right? Because many teams together are influencing these KPIs, let's say, and that's why it's outside the team's realm of influence, which is why we should be focusing in the middle, in the outcomes per team. Every team will have developed their own outcomes. Joshua Seiden, this is how he framed what an outcome is it's a measurable change in human behavior that drives business results. And here I want to stress out that human behavior. It's not about end customer, end user, or whatsoever. It's about anyone who we are serving for, right? So we need to be checking out that who is my target person? Whose life am I changing? Whose behavior am I changing with the services I'm developing? And this way, thinking in outcomes will become a lot easier if we are in teams who's not working for an end customer directly, for example. So here, now, again, questions for you. You know now what outcome is. You probably already knew it also, but let's reflect a little bit how you do work with those outcomes. Here's a question with 5 answers, possible answers, and it's a multiple choice question. Which of the statements apply to your team? Please write your answers in the chat that I'm following in Zoom here. Is it 1, that teams do or cannot measure the outcome of their work? Teams cannot connect their work with business impact. Roadmaps show a list of features. Team success is measured by velocity and number of delivered features. Or team success is measured by the outcome of their work. What are your answers? Maybe you have even more than one answer. I'm checking the chat. I see 3. Yeah, that's the pain point, that we have roadmaps kind of as a list of a feature. Yeah.
It says 3 and 4.
We have also 4. Okay, yeah. It's going in the same direction. Do you see any more answers? I see a 5. Wow. Congratulations to I think Yolanta. Yeah, I see some more 5. So this is great. This is awesome. Keep doing what you are doing, right? If you manage a team that they can measure their success based on outcomes, based on change of behaviors they've been working on, that's awesome. So everything else, any other answer here in this list, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is a dysfunction we see in many organizations. Why is that? We have this feature roadmap, right? And what we do is with agile methodologies that we adapt, for example, Scrum, and start delivering this feature roadmap that was decided somewhere, somehow, we don't know, or maybe we know, but it's just there. And we start delivering it with Scrum. And we are getting better and better with that every day, that we are perfecting our delivery thanks to Scrum, right? That's awesome. But what about outcomes? When do we talk about outcomes? When do we review them, right? 2020, Scrum added something new to its guide. And I was so excited when I saw that. As you see, that blinky thing, product goal, right? That's how excited I was, because it changed the game for many Scrum teams, because it's reframed how we think about our goals, about our product that we are delivering with Scrum, right? So this is an important element. Let's keep that in mind. How do we get rid of this? How do we escape that feature factory, as John Cutler is framing it? How do we do that? Usually what we have, as you already mentioned yourself with your answers, we have a company vision. Either it's there, or we know it, or it's there, but we don't understand it quietly, but there's some sort of a vision. And then we have directly a roadmap that we plan maybe annually or twice a year. And then we plan the roadmap and say, how do we drive progress here? That's what we always have. Now with OKRs, my clients come to me and ask, that's not enough. We need something, OKRs, to create focus and alignment. Great. Which outcomes would drive business results? That's how I implement OKRs for these clients. But it's not always enough. So as you see, between the vision and OKR, we have a gap. If we leave this gap as it is, then it's a huge interpretation room for everyone. Which is why we have to have a kind of a strategy. I call it midterm strategy, to give it a time frame like 12 to 18 months, to have a kind of a persistent model behind that. So in this strategy, we ask the question where to play and how to win. This way, we can have a strategic roadmap that is linked with our feature roadmap. And even better, our feature roadmap is actually derived from our strategic roadmap. That would be the ideal state we aim for. So we should know what's the business impact we want to create. So we have a successful company, a sustainable company, right? We need to be aware of those things. We should be aware of the strategic outcome we want to create, like John Cutler is framing it as a North Star metric, and the tactical outcomes, the short-term outcomes we create every 3 to 4 months. And derive from that, then we can talk about the features like Discovery Weekly. What can we do in order to increase our user engagement, right? So now, if we do our strategy part with OKRs and do our feature roadmap delivery with Scrum, how do we connect those things then together? How does that work together? Let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, I will check the similarities. Do we have matching points between these two frameworks? You all probably know this visualization of Scrum, and I totally agree with all those principles. That's absolutely accepted also in the OKR, from the OKR perspective. Now, you also know all these values of Scrum, how we see the teams, how we work with each other, and so on. And I just added the OKR part to it. And you will see on the left side, there are lots of matches, right? Even though if there's not a word-to-word match, there's a principle match behind it. So that's already a good sign. And even most importantly is that both frameworks, both ways of working is based on this PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act. Because we are working iteratively here. We are not planning for a whole year and then do what we do. We go in shorter iterations, right? So both frameworks are based on that principle. As you see, the Scrum you already know. In the OKR framework, we do the same thing. We start planning our OKRs, short-term OKRs for 3 to 4 months. Then we plan our initiatives. How can we drive progress towards those? We have our check-ins in the middle every week or every 2 weeks. And at the end of the cycle, we review it, inspect and adapt, and then adapt our strategy if needed, and then carry on with the next cycle. That's already a good thing. So they match regarding their how they work together. What are the differences? Because if they are all same, why do we need both, right? The differences, if you ask me, is the main difference here is the scope, who is involved in a Scrum or an OKR process. When we talk about OKRs, we talk about the strategy, which requires involvement of leadership and company. While when we talk about Scrum, we talk rather about product we deliver and the teams that work in this product delivery, right? The iteration length is in OKRs rather 3 to 4 months, and in Scrum 1 to 4 weeks. And both work based on that inspect and adapt PDCA cycle. Now, I will give you an example. How do we work with an OKR and how do we deliver it with Scrum? We did an OKR planning. Our OKRs are the same as our product goal, let's say, right? We just articulated our product goal as an OKR set. And in our OKR set, we have that we aimed for a accountless shopping experience because no one wants to create an account. So this is what we are aiming for. And we say 30% customers will log in again via the third party once we offer it. They will come back again, and we will do a better conversion in the touch point, whatever. So now in the initiatives planning, the team can create their backlog, actually, right? We don't do anything else in OKRs, just creating ideas. How can we drive progress towards our goal? And that's the same. Now here we can create our backlog items and start sprinting. And in the first sprint, let's say we have enabled Google login. Now in a sprint review, we check how that works. Plus we should check if this login is now being used by the customers that we were aiming for. Like, how many of those log in now via Google Indeed, right? So we have our outcome to check in the sprint review, hence OKR check-in. Progress towards goal. That's also stated in the Scrum Guide that sprint review's purpose should be asked in the question, what's the progress towards goal we made? Then we have many more sprints, let's say 6 sprints we already had behind us. And then our OKR cycle ends. After each check-in, we should be tracking and acting accordingly and replanning our sprints accordingly, right? And when we have a sprint retrospective, which I assume we all have that, we should be asking the question, we should be adding the question about OKRs. Maybe not in every sprint retro, but every month or at latest after each OKR cycle, we should be also talking about that, how OKR is helping us, how can we improve our process with OKRs even to do it even better. Now, the cycle is ended. We had 6 sprints of 2 weeks. After 3 months, OKR cycle is at the end. So we have our review, and this review should have the purpose checking out the strategy behind it, why we actually doing this all, inspect and adapt, if needed, changed or do some corrective actions regarding the strategy, and then start the next cycle. That's how it can work. So if you want to see it as a whole in one picture, if you are doing your screenshots or taking pictures whatsoever, here's another kind of a visualization to make it clearer that each initiative can contribute to a sprint as a sprint goal, or maybe a key result becomes the sprint goal, at least the outcome itself, right? So we can, from each sprint to sprint, do our check-ins and then check and act, adapt accordingly our plans, and then move on. And at the end of 12 weeks, we have our OKR cycle finished. Right, so this is the technicality, how we connect this 3 to 4 months iteration of OKRs and the idea of OKR, and how do we connect it with Scrum to make us better when we drive progress towards our outcomes. So I see it as a perfect match. If I'm honest, I would recommend it to everyone to connect those frameworks with each other. What are the do's and don'ts? What should we be careful about? First of all, please avoid parallel universes. If you have many frameworks in your company organization, ask the question, which one are we using for what purpose, right? And then if they are still valid, then try to connect them, make sense of it. And don't use it just, yeah, this in this area we have Scrum, in this area we have OKR, and so on. No, each framework has a different job to do. Connect them with each other. Don't rename existing elements you already have in your system. So objective is not just another project name, right? or it's not an epic if you work with Jira elements, let's say, or objective is not just a feature. It's actually the outcome, as I just explained it. The key result is not a milestone or user story or a task. So I see that a lot, that teams are trying to rename those things and just add it to their Jira plans like this. And it's of course not the aim of it, not the idea behind it. Another thing that I warn about is don't mix up roles. Product owner is not equally OKR owner, or the Scrum Master is not equal OKR agent or OKR facilitator, or OKR whoever, or this OKR person who helps the team to understand the OKR process, to understand how do we write OKRs actually. And a team member is not automatically initiative owner. It's a team together. It takes a team all at once to work on those OKRs. So if you define your OKRs, invite everyone to the party, as Marty Kagan says. If you are inviting your engineers just to code only, then you are getting about half of their value, right? So sit with them together to create that OKR, and it's not just the PO's or product manager's job to understand the OKRs and then the team does it, just executes it. No, the engineers should know what's the outcome behind it on the feature they are working on, so they can, bring their creativity in the game. Another thing I see a lot is that OKRs get strictly cascaded. It doesn't make sense. I'm talking about this a lot in extended other talks, so I'm just going to touch a little bit the idea behind it. Cascading OKRs is one of the most popular type of OKR models, but it's just the theoretical part. I've done it in 2016 when I started first with OKRs, because there were no other ideas that I could try out. And in the praxis, and maybe it also felt intuitive, let's say, but in the practice, I realized that's not working. It's just waste of time, and many times, because of many different reasons that I can explain maybe in another talk. Or if you want to chat about it, please just get in touch with me. Instead of that, I developed a system that I call solar system, OKRs as a solar system, because we might have different OKR setups, OKR models, depending on if you are in a product organization, or if you are doing some greenfields research topics, or maybe we have topics that we work all together as shared OKRs, right? So the glue here is the sun in the center is the strategy. If we have that right, then we can create that kind of flexible structures that I call solar system. One last point I want to share with you is outcomes. Everyone is talking about the outcome-driven OKRs now, but I say don't focus only in outcome, end customer outcomes. There are different kind of outcomes. So I had a look in team topologies, and it resonated with me suddenly, because I've seen teams working in these kind of areas that are not working directly with a customer, with an end customer or end user, but rather helping that team, like the platform team in team topologies is stated, helping that team who is actually delivering services, value to end customer. So in that case, the customer of platform team is not the end customer, but something in between, the stream aligned team, the team who is delivering value to customers, right? So we need to be aware of this dynamics in an organization, and not try to push every team to write end customer focused outcomes. Sometimes it's an internal customer, and maybe it's a X as a service SAS type of outcomes. And sometimes it's a complicated subsystem that every team needs to work with and needs to apply it, right? And these are the process or the enabling teams, creating continuous delivery frameworks and so on, that every team will profit from it. So these teams can ask themselves, who is our customer actually? It's not the end customer. And at the end, of course, we all work for that. but I'm serving directly to an internal team maybe, so my outcomes can look that way, right? So this is an important topic. I have there a lot of examples, some metrics for you designed. You can have a look when I send the slides afterwards. And if you want to chat about it a little bit more, please feel free to contact me. Now I'm coming to an end, and I want to give a couple of advices and a recap kind of. First of all, it's not about the frameworks. It's not about implementing the framework. It's about solving a problem and to understand which framework solves which problem. Measure outcomes, know activities, make clear whom the team serves directly, and don't cascade OKRs, build a solar system. Now, after the recap, now I'm asking you, have I achieved my objective? Give me your answers in the chat. Did you, will you reconsider the way you work with OKRs? Yes or no in the chat, please. Yes, 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 yeah, more yeses. Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. Please do contact me after the talk. I will right away check my LinkedIn and see if there are questions, more questions, or so on. And I see that we have a feedback form here. Please don't forget to give your feedback. If you want to give it a try or contact more, I also have some freebies and some discounts for you. I can send all the links in the chat right away, and feel free to check them out, or if you have questions, let me know. But now maybe have questions to the talk directly.
We have one that was a couple minutes ago. So Yolanta is asking, please give examples of strategic theme, function, and shared OKRs.
Oh, yeah. Great question. So I know this topic is really interesting, and maybe that could be the talk for next year, Inga. Yeah, let's take a note for that. So this is a really, because this if we manage to create an OKR architecture model that gives this flexibility, then we truly see the power of OKRs. And that's, I'm telling not only from the theory part, that's what I see with my clients, right? So strategic theme OKR is something that I develop. You won't find it in any book or anywhere else. That's something that I experimented with and validated that it's working. It creates value for the organizations. And I started with that with a consumer electronic company. And they had a situation that in their strategy, it was very big topic about their contractors. You know, they are consumer electronics producers, and they bring these products to the end customers at their homes. But they are not doing that on their own. The contractors do that, and the contractors are not employed at this company. So, but they were the face of this company when it comes to end customers, right? Actually, the first person the customer sees when they see that brand. And they had this huge topic: how do we make these people, these contractors, feel loyal to us, to our brand, so we can improve how they provide our customers when they deliver our products even better, right? And they didn't have any dedicated team for this topic. It's just these contractors are all over the country, thousands of them. So what we did is, what's the strategy behind that topic? What do you want to achieve in 12 to 18 months? And then we found out that there are 3 focus areas. To those areas, we created OKR teams, asking for volunteers, asking for people who is interested in the topic, who is close to the topic due to the nature of their work, and who is willing to try OKRs out. And this way we created a strategic theme OKR model in one part, while we do also product type of OKRs at the same organization, because they are developing the product directly, bring it to the people, and they they can experiment, test the defects of the products, and develop new products, more modern products, and so on, to understand the customer, how they want it, how the consumer behavior has changed, and providing products accordingly. Shared OKR, on the other hand, is we have dedicated teams for specific topics, but we need to bring them together to work on these topics, right? Imagine a product launch, for example. It requires product development, it requires sales, it requires marketing. So we need to bring those together. Instead of writing OKR set per department, let's decide what do we focus on in the next 3 to 4 months, and then write a shared OKR set. Each team can then derive their work from that OKR set. I'm sorry, it's not a short answer. Yeah, I talk about it in hours, actually. So I hope it helped.
We have another question. I can read it. So Victor is asking, could you tell the difference between impact and outcome? I often see and hear these two words in the same context, and it gets sometimes confusing.
Yeah, I do hear that. Well, the basic difference is the outcome is something that we focus on changing some sort of behavior for the specific topic that we are working on, right? User engagement, for example. The impact is something we want to influence positively after working in many different types of outcomes. So I can be working on user engagement at the same time. I can be working in conversion rates, for example, that I manage, that customers move towards the customer journey, that I improve these kind of customer journey touch points, for example. And all these together, all these outcomes together will influence, or that's the hypothesis, influences the impact at the end. Right? Impact is rather abstract and high level and can be influenced by internal and external factors, by many factors. And it's once we measure the impact, once we see, oh, we have subscribers, we have more subscribers, let's say, or we increased our market share, that's already the signals of a good performance we showed in the past, right? So it's the signal showing us that we did good job, and then we can measure it at the end. Once we measure it, at the time we measure them, we can't change it anymore because it's already in the past. It's already showing the success of past performance. And that's the main difference. And that's why I recommend not working with impact KPIs or impact metrics, lagging metrics, let's say, because the team won't have the control over it. We should rather find outcomes that the team can control themselves and see a direct connection from their work to the outcomes they created. I hope it helped. Thank you.